views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome to this, it's okay, thank you. Welcome to this forum, and I am very proud of everyone that's here tonight. I'm going to tell you about the host organizations in just 1 second. I'm going to introduce the candidates, but the reason why I'm so proud of all of you, it is a Thursday night, and for 30 years I have been asked, Dominic, how do I impact politics? How do I bring about a change? This is how you do it. This is how you do it, by showing up and voting in your community for your interests, for what's important to you. And so you deserve a round of applause for that. And so it's not easy. My name is Dominic Carter. Some of you may remember me from New York 1. I'm now on Verizon Fios. Tomorrow morning at noon, I'll be on WABC radio talking about who won and who lost with these candidates. Who's going to win tonight? It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. Okay. We have to be fair. We have to be fair to all the candidates. And so something like this doesn't just happen like that. There are a number of host organizations, please bear with me for this. From New York City Votes, Mr. Sean O'Keery. Where's Sean? Where's Sean? Sean, stand up. Thank you for your involvement with this, Sean. From New York City Votes. From the man, one of the lead organizers here from Garifuna Coalition, Mr. Jose Avila. Where's Jose? Where's Jose? Come on up, brother, come on up. This is how you make a difference. This is how you make a difference. Any fool can complain. Any fool can complain. This brother played a major role in putting this together. And we thank you very much for doing so. I think everybody in this room knows this woman. I am an objective reporter, but I'm not when it comes to her, and that is Beverly Roberts, the president of the NAACP. Miss Roberts gives 1,000% in everything that she does. And she put a lot of time and energy into helping this get to tonight on behalf of the NAACP. And so, Ms. Roberts, we thank you very much. Now, is Principal Montalvo still here? Is she out front? Madam Principal, where is she? Oh, she had to leave? But she was out front earlier. Yes. Okay. So there are people that care, and then there are people that really care and step up. Don't lose the point of this school is open tonight by the principal so that we can have this type of event. That's what I call an outstanding leader. So please acknowledge her when you see her. So now, for the actual candidates, we are joined on stage by Mr. Michael Belzer, by Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr., by Okay, okay. Please be seated. Please be seated. We are also joined on stage by candidate Amanda Farias. And we are also joined on stage, last but not least, by Mr. Elvin Garcia. So, this is how this is going to work. If you have a question, I suggest you start writing it down now. I'm going to be calling on folks at random when we get to that. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, a hard-timed 2 minutes. Once the timekeeper, Mrs. Butcher, tells me that we're done, I will cut them off. They will have 2 minutes for an opening statement to discuss their platform. They will then, after we are done with the 4 of them, if I have the need to follow up, if they're not answering a question, I'm going to push them and make them answer the question. So you will have 1 minute to ask your question. No statements. Again, no political statements, but you will have 1 minute in terms of a question that you will need to read from the card. So please write your question down on the index card. As I said, the candidates will have their time limits. So let's get this show on the road. And let's begin with the first candidate we'll hear from tonight is Amanda Farias.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you for the NAACP chapter for hosting this, along with NYC Votes and Garifuna Coalition. Once again, my name is Amanda Farias. I'm born and raised in this district by a single mom. I'm the eldest of 3 kids. Typical 90s kid. I went to PS 69, went to Holy Cross after that because my mom sacrificed a lot to ensure a good education. And went to Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club every summer. So for me, yeah, Kips Bay. For me, it was really important to see the sacrifices my mother was making, living paycheck to paycheck, even 1 or 2 paychecks away from homelessness, just to make sure that me and my brothers never went without and always had opportunity in this community. And that's really what it's all about for me in this race. For the last 4.5 years, I've been working at New York City Council, really learning everything, writing legislation, working on city budgets, and learning the ins and outs of City Hall, just so I can now take advantage of an opportunity to give back to my own neighbors and bring back a reinvestment of where our tax-paying dollars are going into my own community. So I'm really grateful to be here, and I look forward to all of your great questions.
Very much. Thank you very much. Let's now go to Mr. Elvin Garcia.
Good evening, everybody. Buenas tardes. Okay. My name is Elvin Garcia. I'm a proud son of an immigrant single mother from the Dominican Republic. I grew up in this community my entire life. I'm a proud public school kid, K through 12, like the overwhelming majority of the working class neighbors in this district. I'm someone who built his entire career in the Bronx after graduating from a top-tier university, coming back working in the not-for-profit sector, working my way through city and state government, all the way to the mayor's office, where I was the Bronx director the last 3 years, seeing the largest expansion of universal pre-kindergarten, seeing historic reductions in crime, while also improving police-community relations. The new neighborhood community policing program is something I worked very closely with the 43rd Precinct. The ferry expansion that's coming to this district, the first ferry in the Bronx in 100 years, thanks to the de Blasio administration. I'm proud to be a proud foot soldier of the progress of the last 4 years. And I'm here running for city council in an open seat because term limits are designed to bring in new leadership. And elections are not just about the future, but they're also about contrast. We've had a state government, unfortunately, that has failed us in bringing in the over $1 billion that we need to our public school systems. The decades-old issue, if not more, of disability access for the Parkchester train station still hasn't been resolved, and you still have the same leaders rotating around like musical chairs, denying people a real choice. Now, it's a democracy, and I welcome a debate whether or not city government is more efficient than state government, whether or not a Obama Democrat represents the values of this community over a Trump Democrat. So I'm very much looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Michael Belzer.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Buenos tardes a todos. Me llamo es Michael Belzer. My name is Michael Belzer. That's like seltzer with a B. And I'm running for city council because I'm committed, I'm capable, I care. I'm someone who served this community while as a member of the local community board, a friend of Soundview Park, and a member of the 43rd Police Precinct Council. And in each of those roles, people told me, hey, you got a lot of passion, you got a lot of drive, you got a lot of ability. Why don't you do something bigger with that? So this seat is available. So I decided, hey, why not get myself, put myself into the race? I'm somebody who registered over 500 people to vote last year, so civic engagement and political engagement is important to me. While I was on the local community board, I initiated a community-based planning effort that saw the input of over 1,000 residents to hear their goals, dreams, and concerns about what they want to see fixed and changed in their community. I intend to complete that community-based plan as your next city council member. So I really want everyone in this room to make sure that their voice is heard. It's very important. That's why I thank New York City Votes and the CFB for putting this on today, because a candidate like myself cannot compete against the politicians on the stage without the matching fund program. And the Garifuna Coalition, really making sure that the marginalized voices are heard. And of course, the Parkchester NAACP, which has definitely been a leader in the community for several decades. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of these organizations as the next city council member for District 18. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Reverend Ruben Diaz, Sr.
Thank you. Honestly, I served my country for 2 years, and I came to United States, the Bronx, in 1965. I have 3 children. Damaris, who happens to be a retired New York police sergeant. I have another son, the name is Samuel. He's working in the New York City Housing Authority. And Ruben Diaz Jr., the youngest one, who happens to be the Bronx Borough President. I was city council member representing this district when the Bronx Democratic Party, the chairman asked me to abandon the city council and run for the Senate because the Bronx Democratic Party needed me in the Senate. As a good Democrat, I ran for the state Senate, and 15 years ago, for the last 15 years, I have been representing this community and the 32nd Senatorial District with honor, with pride, with dignity, and I'm intent to come back. It's my hope to come back to the district that I started, the 18th Council Marriage, with your help and with your support.
Okay. I would like, come on folks, we're short on time. Let me just say this up front. We have little time, so if you spend 2 minutes cheering for one candidate, we're not gonna have time for anything. Okay, so the first question, I have a couple of questions on cards here. I hope you have your questions ready. I'm going to start with you, Reverend Diaz. This is a question that someone passed to me here. They wrote down. There's not a name on it. And the question is, what is your reason for wanting to leave the state Senate? Could it have anything to do with the drastic boost in council members' salaries in 2016? And wait, let me finish. And their ability to vote for their own pay raises, a privilege not afforded to those in the state? What can you do for the community that you couldn't accomplish in the state?
That is a good,
That was your question? Okay.
that is a good question. And whoever made it, let me tell you that 16 years ago, I was in the city council. My salary was $110,000 in the city council. 16 years ago, when the Bronx Democratic Party asked me to run for the Senate, I abandoned that salary to go to the Senate to earn $79,000. For the last 15 years, I have been earning $79,000. I abandoned $110,000 to go there. So, I am not coming back because of the salary, because of the money. Money is not a problem with me. I already told you, I lost $30,000. And for the last 15 years, I am not making more money. So, ladies and gentlemen, no, that's not the reason why I'm coming back. I'm coming back because this district, that is part of the district that I've been representing, part of it, needs a voice, needs someone that really go to City Hall. And don't be afraid to the mayor, don't be afraid to the council speaker, and represent and defend the taxi drivers that have been abused, that have been killed, that have been abused, and stop the mayor and their councils from building more shelters and destroying this district. So we have to have a voice that really is independent voice that fights that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Who has a question written down on the card? Okay, ma'am. Who has a question?
Over here.
Wait, over here? Okay, let's go right over here. I want to know your name and then read your question. Again, no political statements, please.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having this forum tonight. This is like the only forum that I had knowledge of. Prior to 3 days ago, there was 3 other debates that Ruben Diaz was a no-show to, so I'm glad you made it to this one with your audience as well. So my question is specifically to Reverend Ruben Diaz Sr. I do want to say that I admire the other 3 candidates because we do need fresh ideas in this community. So my question specifically to Reverend Ruben Diaz is that I was born and raised in the Bronx, right? And to this very day, the Bronx has remained the poorest congressional district in the nation to today. You've been in public service for 20 years. So you say you want to be a voice to this district. You had the opportunity to bring that voice 20 years in service. So I want to know if you was elected, what do you plan to do differently as bringing real equity in this community where people's not living below the poverty line?
And when Reverend Diaz, when you're done responding, if another one candidate wants to chime in, you can on this, but I'll make sure that everybody gets equal time. Go ahead, Reverend Diaz.
First, I thought that the rule was that there would not be a political speeches, just question, but that's okay. And let me answer that question. The 32nd senatorial district that I represent, go around, see how it's being rebuilt, see how every single train station in the district, Soundview, Parkchester, Castle Hill, Intervale. All the train stations have been rebuilt. All the streets have been repaved. All the sidewalks have been repaved. The Bronx that used to be is no longer there. The Bronx that used to be is no longer there. So I believe that the job that I have been doing together with my colleagues that represent the Bronx have been great. The Bronx, everybody wants to come to live in the Bronx now. Before everybody abandoned the Bronx was burned out. Everybody left. I don't want to know about the Bronx. Now everybody wants to come back to the Bronx. Every business wants to come back to the Bronx. And why is it that the Bronx is so bad, as the lady said? People wants to come back. People wants to come to the Bronx. The Bronx is that bad. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bronx is the county that is coming up. The business are growing, the unemployment are going down, houses and every single facility are being rebuilt. I think that we are proud. And the Bronx side and everybody that lives in the Bronx that know what the Bronx used to be. Sometimes people don't even know what the Bronx used to be. So they came yesterday to the Bronx and they don't know the struggle. They don't know the fight. They don't know what took to have the Bronx the way it is now. So they say, oh, the Bronx is nah. They don't even know what the Bronx used to be. But you guys that know what the Bronx was, that used to live here, you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
So I think that's a very poignant question. I often say, I'm originally from Long Island. I could not live in the Bronx without the work of the people who came before me. There is a good base that has been built, and Senator Diaz has put in a lot of work into the state Senate, and he started a lot of good programs like building senior housing. There's a senior housing task force. I would like to see him finish his career to get that done, to figure out the senior housing crisis. But what we need to do is move the Bronx into the 22nd century. We need new ideas. We need fresh, bold leadership. Our elected official is supposed to adjust cleanliness, is supposed to fix sidewalks, is supposed to, allocate money. These are not things that need to be applauded. If I become city council member, don't go around applauding me for doing my job. Applaud me for going above and beyond, okay? So that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing on a volunteer capacity. The politicians on this stage get confused that they get a taxpayer dollars to do their job, to show up to work. This is the Bronx. When I was on Soundview Park one day, they were talking about getting a van to come around. And people said, why would we get a van? What if they steal the rims? What if they steal the radio? I said, why do you have such a negative connotation? If we're getting something, at least try to look at the positive first. So I agree with the senator on that. But we have to be forward-looking. I don't feel like the ideas that have been coming out from the current crop of elected leadership is enough to bring us to the next century when we know that the big developers are coming in. We know the big landlords are pushing people out. We know the big businesses are killing our small moms and pops. So we need people who are going to stand up to the mayor, be an independent voice, which I am proud to have been over the last few years. So I will definitely build upon the legacy as the next city council member for District 18.
Miss Farias, she wanted to. Can we get that mic on, please?
Oh, thank you. Never mind. I'm glad the point was brought up about being here all of your lives and understanding what the status of our district and our community used to look like. In the 90s, growing up here, my family and my mother were scared for me to be outside because of the gang violence that we used to have, because of the poor conditions on the streets, and because of the lack of resources we had. Literally, to this day, we still only have one Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club where everyone can attend, if you can afford it, and one YMCA. So for me, when I think about the resources that need to be put into this community, I immediately think, yeah, everyone's coming here because we have the cheapest rents throughout the 5 boroughs. And what are we doing to protect our current families to make sure to make sure that we're here to stay for generations to come. Where are the elected officials that are building community land trusts to ensure that we are remaining homeowners as well as reinvesting into our communities? Where are the protections for free and affordable after-school programs? Because everyone in this room is most likely a commuter to and from work from this district, and we have the most inefficient transportation system throughout this borough. Those are the questions that I'm posed, and with my experience in the City Council with already remedying another community's after-school programs, another community's students' STEM programming, bringing participatory budgeting into a community where it grants citizens at least $1 million of a council member's budget to decide where that money goes, empowering a community is how we're going to make changes and what I'm hoping to bring into this district.
Mr. Garcia?
Ladies and gentlemen, as they say, the devil's in the details. In the Senate, we had a majority of Democrats. Then Senator Diaz conspired with others to take it over. 3 of those individuals are locked up. Dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres. We haven't had a majority state Senate in a long time. I commend my opponent for his years of service west of the Bronx River in those high needs areas. But in this district, it's time for new leadership. In this district, it's time for a city council member that is going door to door asking constituents what the needs are, because I want to operate as a city council member, not telling people what the issues are, but listening from you. That is the model of leadership that I want to bring to this community. My opponent has the most experience defending unconstitutional stop and frisk, where young men were literally being physically violated on their way to school from head to toe. He says that he's proud of being Afro-Puerto Rican, yet because as an elected official, you never got to be stopped and frisked. But for years, people of color were being stopped and frisked. Then he said if we didn't keep that going, crime would not go down. And yet crime went down. I'm proud to have been part of Mayor de Blasio's office to roll back stop and frisk. That's the kind of leadership that I bring to the city council. And lastly, what is a state senator doing suing a school that is a safe haven for one of the most vulnerable communities in the city? His obsession with the LGBT community is something that's very disturbing. After decades of service, I think it's clear that he's had enough. And he says there's no separation of church and state. Well, Senator, greed and gluttony are 2 of the 7 deadly sins. You can't have it all.
Okay. Okay. If I let everybody respond, we won't get any question. I'll give you, Reverend Diaz, a quick response to that, or you don't want to respond? No? Okay, let's keep going. Right in the back. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Yes. For each candidate, I want you to list 3
No,
specific...
you have to direct it to one candidate,
Okay,
ma'am. I'm
well,
sorry.
we've heard from Ms. Farias, I think. For Mr. Garcia, list 3 specific initiatives that you would bring to the Bronx as city councilman and prioritize them. What would be the first one?
You know what? That's an excellent question. So we're going to let all 4 answer it. But I want you to be specific, and please don't eat up 2 minutes each, because I want to keep going. The question was very specific. Name 3 things that you will do in the council. Name the 3, please.
Thank you so much for your question, and you can call me Elvin. Public safety is one of the top issues in this district, but public safety must be addressed holistically. Part of public safety must be continuing to get more police officers.
Not a speech on public safety.
Okay.
The 3 things you would do.
3 things. We want to make sure that the ferry launch is successful by expanding resources of bus service into the ferry. We want to make sure that all of our schools have after-school programs for middle school students, or the ones that fall through the cracks the most.
Okay, but
a lot of inequities.
Wait,
And lastly,
hold on. What you would do.
Yes.
That's what she asked. Not what the body will do, what will you do?
I use that language we because it isn't just about me. That's how I would operate on the city council. I say we because I'm going to bring the community downtown to City Hall. I say we because it is not my office, it is our office. So when I say we, I mean me and the community as a member of the city council. And on public safety, I will continue to push for those reforms and pass the Right to Know Act so that we have greater relations between police and community and rebuild our trust, continue to reduce crime. Thank you so much.
Ms. Farias?
Sure. So the three top things that I would like to focus on is, one is transportation. We are a transit desert, so I would like to start bringing city bikes, and I know with protected lanes as well as select bus service lanes to the 27 and the 39 bus, and I've heard some concerns about the 5 as well. So looking at better ways of making transportation efficient to use the ferry or just to get to our kids on time after school and to work on time. Transportation is directly related to healthy food access, as well as being a transit desert. We're a healthy food desert. So really expanding our green markets, making sure that we have vacancies that are filled with supermarkets, unlike the current the key food that we have been waiting 2.5 years for some folks in our community. And there are other folks that are traveling a mile or over a mile and a half for a major supermarket within our community, and that's unacceptable. We need to make sure that folks have access.
What's the third?
To healthy food. And participatory budgeting is something that I mentioned earlier. Once again, it empowers the community. It gives folks the opportunity to actually see their taxpaying dollars reinvested. And the program that I ran for 2 years also encouraged children 12 and up to vote. So that's the beginning stages of civic engagement and really letting them see how important that is.
Okay, thank you. Reverend Diaz?
First, I will continue building affordable houses as I've been doing. Second, I will try to be a member of the Transportation Committee to stop the abuses from that have been done to the taxi, to the delivery industry. And number three, I will fight for more charter schools for the district.
Mr. Belzer?
So first, a community-based plan that actually listens to you. Other candidates up on the stage say that they listen to you. Where have they been? None of them attended any. No candidate in this race attended any, not one of the 4 that community vision sessions that were held, didn't fill out a survey, didn't come to any of the 8 small meetings that were held. Where were they if they cared so much about our community? Community board reform. We need to remove the outsized political influence on our community board. There should be 50 members on the community board, and there's plenty of them in this room. And restore surface transit. The Bronx used to be, used to have trolleys all over the place. We used to have 2 lines going down to the ferry down there, and I intend to bring our surface transit into the 22nd century.
Thank you. The next question, we didn't do the middle yet. So let's, okay, this young man right here.
Should I stand?
Stand up, please. Who are you directing your question to?
Directing it to everyone?
No, we need, try to direct your question because they can't respond to every question in the interest of time.
Right.
Who would you like to start your answer?
So I'll direct it to the 3, Mr. Garcia, Ms. Farias, and Mr. Diaz. How have you demonstrated your involvement in the community? What is your track record of accomplishments for the district?
Okay, let's start with, I like the track record part. It's your question. Who do you want to go first?
I would like Mr. Diaz to go first.
Okay, Reverend Diaz, the question is, what is your track record in the district? Accomplishments, and okay, go right ahead.
As I said before, all the subway, the train station in the district have been fixed, streets have been repaired, sidewalks have been redone, so the value of private property has increased. Schools have been rebuilt. The parks in the district have been all rebuilt because of money that we fought to bring in. So we have already approved or fight for 4 North Central train stations, one of them being in the district. We are bringing Hollywood to open a Hollywood film. What was that? Hollywood is coming because we have fought to bring Hollywood to create jobs in the district, and so on, so on. So the
Okay.
time is up.
Who do you want to answer next? Mr. Garcia.
Thank you so much. I started out as an intern in the State Assembly. How's this? Is this better? Okay. I started out as an intern in the State Assembly, learning the ropes of constituent services, helping immigrant communities stay in their homes. In City Hall, fast forward, I helped to open up a pre-K center in NYCHA Soundview houses. It was an underutilized space. I want to do more of that. That's where the high need for pre-K is. I worked with the 43rd Precinct on the neighborhood community policing program, the scoping meetings on the ferry that's coming to Soundview Avenue, working with the Shorehaven, Classen Point, and Harding Park communities. I worked to hold NYCHA's feet to the fire on repairs in Bronx River houses, in Sotomayor houses, and Soundview houses. I also worked to organize small business forums across the district, and when we saw a spike in anti-Muslim hate crimes because of Donald Trump's rhetoric, I organized the first in the Bronx public safety forum for a segment of the population that was being victimized and bullied because they were Muslim. And I'm proud of defending those communities that are the most marginalized. I also brought city commissioners to small business town halls and worked with the taxi and limousine commissioner to have a forum for the taxi and limousine drivers as well across the Bronx. So I'm proud of my record. Thank you so much.
Let's let the other two respond quickly, and then we're going to go to you, sir. Go ahead.
Sure, so I'll be brief. My legislative track record working in a council member's office really gave me liberty to look at the 5 boroughs. When I was director of the Women's Caucus, it was a priority for me to make sure that we were serving every single borough correctly. So with that, I was able to make sure programmatic funding was going to organizations that was working on different issues like domestic violence, sexual assault, STEM and STEAM programming in schools through the Women's Caucus budget, because there was a need specifically in the Bronx and Staten Island. They're the 2 forgotten boroughs, unfortunately. As well as focusing on the health record that the Bronx County unfortunately has, with being in last place out of all the counties in New York. I was able to write legislation to make sure that Department of Health and Mental Hygiene is giving us annual reports to ensure that we are not missing neighborhoods in the Bronx, in Staten Island, where there are services that are needed for young women and for women and families. And lastly, I'll just quickly say, being a lifelong resident in this district is just as valuable as doing work on the ground, because every day each one of us are going through hurdles to make sure that our livelihoods are fully lived. So thank you.
Thank you.
So unlike my competitors here, they've had the advantage of having resources available to them. The accomplishments that I've been able to achieve have been through hard work and grit, rolling up my sleeves and being there every step of the way. So whether it was restoring the orchestra program in my daughter's local public school in only 3 days, that was working with parents in the community. Whether it was getting more funding for programming in Soundview Park, that was about advocating directly to the city council member and making sure other people joined into that cause. When I got onto the community board, I didn't understand why there wasn't a traffic light in Hugh Grant Circle, and I made sure to look, and there was already a request for that, so I made sure to push for that, and they put in a traffic light and new pedestrian space. And I'll continue to do things like when there's a 12-year-old boy that was shot in Story Playground. I worked outside of any political influence, outside of any elected official, to put together a community take-back event with the 12-year-old boy that was shot so the kids could feel safe again. I'll continue to do that. I'll be amazed what I can do with the actual resources without the political powers trying to block the community. And also Park Lane, I see my good friends Amelia and Hector over there. I've stood step by step with them, and their building was coming off of Mitchell-Lama. It seems like their building will be saved for another 20 to 30 years on that. So that's the kind of things that we need to fight for. But I need all of you out there to join me so we can accomplish even more.
Sir?
Good evening. Really, I should ask this question in Spanish because 90% or 80% of the people here.
Who are you
is
directing the
Spanish.
question to?
But my question is,
No, who are you directing the question to first?
Reverendo Diaz.
Okay, go ahead.
Reverendo, we would like to know you plan for a family, the big family in New York City, like taxi driver. We have 147,000 taxi drivers in New York City, who each one have more than 5 members in the family. Let's do the multiplication. And nobody in City Hall and City Council do nothing for the taxi driver. And right now, we need somebody to raise the voice in the city council to defend the driver and also to put more police in the street to bring down the crime. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to remind you that the New York Daily News, one of the most respected newspapers here in the city, endorsed me and asked the people in the editorial to vote for me. The New York Daily News said that my opponents are not qualified for this position. Not only the New York Daily News, the City and State magazine wrote a big article practically telling people all the things that I have done. The Huffington Post, the most liberal, no, you gotta listen to, no. The Huffington Post even praised me for my behavior even to the LGBT community. And the Huffington Post today said that Mr. Garcia wasn't even there when they needed him. So to the Taxi and Limousine Commission and to the people, that's what I said before, that when I get elected, I will ask to be member of the Transportation Committee because I know the abuses, I know the summons, $10,000 summons, $1,000 summons, 2,000 summons to that industry, and nobody pays attention to that. I'm going to go there to fight for you guys.
Okay. On this side, anyone on this side? On this side? Go right ahead. Go right ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Buitrago, and I have a question for all of them, if they can all answer this.
You can't do all, because
Okay,
it takes
okay.
too long.
Elvin, have you, during your time with the mayor or any of your previous governmental positions, were you able to assist in writing any legislation?
Hello? Speaking on the LGBT community, I worked on legislation that would provide tolerance in our schools. Bullying is a big issue in this community because words have consequences. There's somebody on the stage that is known for saying a lot of divisive things. And so words have consequences. I worked with Councilmember Danny Drum, the chair of education, on this piece of legislation to get more resources for our young people. I worked with the Department of Education after the Ebola crisis as well to address pieces of legislation to add to that some of our immigrant families and to close the gap on ESL programming across our schools. There's inadequacies there. And so those are two examples that I could give you already. But to go back to the Huffington Post piece, that was a typical of the senator's friends, a Republican blogger from Westchester County who couldn't start an LGBT center because he was guilty of corruption. Secondly, the Daily News doesn't determine this race, the people do, Senator.
Okay.
And lastly, this race is not about any individual's endorsement. But while we're on that, I was endorsed by Tenants PAC, the leading state organization that's protecting tenants across the state. And when the Parkchester residents went to Senator Diaz to talk about the maintenance increase, he failed to prevent that from happening. So there you go. That's what you get with that kind of leadership.
Okay.
It is time for new leadership. Vote for Elvin Garcia.
Okay. Can we, over there?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Okay.
I gotta,
okay, go ahead.
If I were Mr. Garcia, I would be ashamed to say that the tenant pack endorsing, I would be ashamed. I tell you why. You know when they endorsing, you know what they say? You know what they say when they endorsing? Even though Senator Diaz has a very good record in housing, even though Senator Diaz has a good record fighting for tenants, for rent control, we will endorse Mr. Garcia because Senator Diaz is supporting Luis Sepulveda. That's what the reason they give. I would be ashamed to say like something like that.
Okay. There was a man. Okay, let's do, who was the man? It was a man, I think, with the tie on over
I'm
there.
sorry. Excuse me. I actually had asked to pose a question before him.
Wait. Where are we? Oh, you have the question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Who are you asking?
My question is geared to Mr. Belzer. I was wondering, the mayor of New York has talked about putting housing shelters in a number of communities. And to date, the Bronx appears to be one of the communities that has an excess of shelters. If you are fortunate enough to be elected to the city council to represent this district, what actions would you take in order to safeguard the people of the Bronx? And the second part of that question is, and this would be geared towards any of the three who can answer this question, it came to our attention today that this community board number 9 is holding a meeting in another area tonight in reference to a shelter to be put in this particular district. So my first question was to Mr. Belzer, and my second part of my question is to anyone who can answer that question intelligently.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your question. This district is doing more than its fair share when it comes in terms of shelters. There's about 18 shelters, and I actually commend the elected officials in this room for putting on several forums when there was a proposed 200 beds men's shelter, and the community came out, over 200 to 300 people came out, and they said absolutely not. Definitely not a men's shelter. Since that time, I've been working with on the task force for the next project that's going to come in. We have to show compassion. There's going to be supportive housing and affordable housing built on that site. But you know why these things get pushed into our community, where people have to find out, even the elected officials sometimes don't even know, is because there's no plan. There's no community-based plan in our community. So all development occurs by blocking lots. So that means basically a developer can come in the middle of the night, purchase some land, work through the paperwork, and then all of a sudden, right now there's a transitional housing public hearing. The only reason there's a public hearing is because the city charter says there has to be. So we need charter reform. I will join my colleagues in the city council on reforming the fair share criteria, which will absolutely address the fact that the Bronx has almost like 50% of the shelters around New York City. It is not right. It's time for us to stand up in the Bronx and say no more. Why are we treated any less than Manhattan? Why are we treated any less than Brooklyn? It is time for people who have been unafraid to go down to City Hall, like I have, to testify against the mayor's housing plan, because it didn't say anything about things like that. How are you going to address the homeless crisis by just putting in a number of shelters? And it's the same thing that he did on Stop and Frisk. He never committed. People on the stage are saying that they were against Stop and Frisk. They were not out there. These people have not been out there. They have not been on the front lines. It's time to elect someone who will be out there with you on the front lines. Vote Belzer 2017.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. Mr. Garcia is the mayor advisor for the Bronx. So that means that any plans that the mayor wants to do in the Bronx, Mr. Garcia is supposed to advise the governor, the mayor, and the mayor will do what Mr. Garcia tells him to do. So those shelters that been built in this district, destroying the district, Mr. Garcia advised the mayor to build them. So that's his advisor. Now, Sepulveda, Assemblyman Sepulveda, myself, I had to call a meeting of the community to stop a shelter that was going to be built in BronxNet Boulevard, because the mayor wanted to build there. We stopped that shelter. I call a meeting with the community. I stop that shelter. And I will stop. And I will stop anything that's going to destroy this community. People has invested money in this community. The homeowner has invested here. They have to be protected. And we will not, anyone that knows me knows that I don't work under pressure and that I do what I think is right for the community. And the mayor, not the governor, and not even, no one will hold me to fight for the community. I will fight for the community as I always have been fighting, and there is no mayor that will make me change my mind to allow him to build a shelter in this community or destroy the community. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Miss.
That is a distortion. He's not even elected to the city council, and he's already distorting the facts. I am not advising anybody on shelters. What is happening in the city right now is that we have a crisis, and rather than playing politics, what we need to do is guarantee that we build more affordable housing for people that can actually afford to live here. For people that can actually afford to live here. And there is one candidate. There is one candidate.
Come on.
Aguila, the Aguila company runs the cluster site shelters that have been a detriment to our homeless families. And they write checks to Senator Diaz all the time. Senator Diaz is the only candidate in this race that have received from gentrifying developers. People that want to come in here and fundamentally change the neighborhood. Tenants PAC also said you should stay in the Senate because you have done nothing to strengthen our rent laws to keep the Bronx affordable. That's what Tenants PAC said ultimately as well, Senator.
Okay, wait. Well, after this, wait, folks, please. After this response, we're gonna go right here, and then there was a woman, right? You're next, and then there was a woman behind, and then we're going over there. Go right ahead.
Sure, just gonna bring it down a notch. Luckily, I'm in the middle. So just want to piggyback off of what Mr. Garcia is saying. It's pertinent in communities like ours that we are building affordable housing, providing resources to our residents like Screed, like Dree, to make sure they're getting tax breaks, sustaining and maintaining our rent-stabilized apartments. That way, when they are flipped, they're not going to be market rate, so families can stay within this community. We really need to look at it in a larger scope to assure that families get to stay here for generations. And like I mentioned earlier, if any development is going to come, it comes to the council member. And it's important that we bring it to the community, include the community, but at the end of the day, we say yes or no and how much percentage is actually affordable. And hopefully we are working on behalf of you guys with your voice in mind to keep our families here.
Without attacking. Love her.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for this beautiful platform. This question is directed to Senator Reverend Ruben Diaz. Reverend Ruben Diaz, as a senator, I would like to know your accomplishment, but the main accomplishment, and it's directed to you, of course, how many bills were you able to pass as a senator? I'm just curious.
No.
That is a good question. Before I answer that, I'm going to answer your question, but I have to advise. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question, but if you don't allow me to answer, I won't be able.
Okay, we're wasting time. We're wasting time. Go ahead, Reverend Diaz.
I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to advise all of you and all my opponents that if they want to see how easy that you build affordable houses, go to Reverend James Polite and see there Reverend Ruben Diaz Plaza. Go to Kelly and Westchester and see there Reverend Ruben Diaz apartment. Go to Intervale and Westchester and see there Reverend Diaz Garden. That's affordable houses being built by me for the people in the Bronx. I know how to do it. I want to bring this to the Bronx. Now the question, in 16 years in the Senate, I have been able to get 15 pieces of legislation approved to be law. I challenge you to go and find another senator that in 16 years could tell you that there are 15 laws in the state of New York called the Diaz Law, signed by the governor, approved by the Assembly, approved by the Senate, and signed by the law. So there is a record per se, 16 pieces of legislation in 15 years. No other senator could do that. Thank you very much.
Miss, wait, hold on. We're running short on time, so I can't let everybody respond to every question. Since you have received the least amount of time, I am going to permit you to respond on this.
So just to stay on legislative track records, I've been a legislative aide for the past 4.5 years. And in 4.5 years, I have passed through a council member 8 pieces of legislation, and I still have about 6 pieces that are sitting in committee waiting to be introduced, passed through, and voted on. So to be your next city council member, that's the work that I can do in 1 term. Actually pushing through 8 pieces of legislation while 6 are still waiting to be heard and to get organized and then to get voted on.
Okay, I said to the woman, it was a woman right over here. Yes, it was a woman, I can't see. It was a woman right over here.
I have the mic.
Okay, well, I don't know. Okay, well, I don't know who the residents are. I'm trying to mix it up throughout the room. So what you're saying that this is biased here? Okay, but I had said, it was a woman right here, I promised. Was it you, ma'am? Go ahead. Let's get a mic to her, please. Who are you, we're short on time, so we gotta keep going. Who are you directing your question to? Who are you directing your question to, ma'am?
Okay, since we've been talking about,
No, who is your question
oh,
to?
my question is to Amanda. So according to our article in New York Real Estate News, Bronx is named next hot real estate market with $3.3 billion worth of investment just last year. How can residents be sure that you will be a councilwoman for the people and not the developers like the people who've been in office?
Sure, thank you for that question. So I'll speak a little bit about what I've already mentioned, right? It's really about community-based planning. It's really about making sure that when affordable housing is coming in, we're doing affordable housing that is the living wage rates that people can afford. Along with that, it's coupled with ensuring that our community is bolstered by bringing job training methods, keeping jobs here, fighting for living wage jobs that we are sustainable in this district. For me, if you can look at the campaign finance records, I haven't received $1 from any developer, any real estate person, anyone that represents real estate, and that's because along with being a small dollar donor leader in the city, really raising money from the people, a people-powered campaign, that's my one way of staying true to you as a community and saying that I won't be here taking developer money to owe anyone later. The only people I owe are the people in this room.
Okay, we have about 20 minutes left, so we got to move quickly, sir. Go right ahead. Okay.
My question
Who is
will
it
be
to?
for Senator Ruben Diaz and Mr. Ervin Garcia.
For Senator Diaz. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, Mr. President.
No statements. Go with the question.
My question, okay. The staff of insurance, taxi driver insurance, they say there is nothing on the bank. But you find out that there was
Wait, sir, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're referring to. So.
Okay, no. My question is, insurance compensation for taxi driver, the staff, They
Okay,
said
we already answered one question.
okay, my
about
question.
taxi drivers.
Okay,
Sir, there are
hear
other
my question.
people-
Hear my
Okay,
question.
Please.
They said they got nothing on the bank, the staff of the insurance compensation. Reverend Ruben Diaz, you find out there was 5.5 million on the bank.
Okay, sir, what is the question?
My question is, Reverend, what you gonna do with those 4.5 millions for taxi drivers?
Thank you.
Those are money that people, the taxi driver, put in a.
Sir, give it a mic, please. You're done with your question. Thank you. Go ahead.
That's an insurance that was created in the state to protect taxi drivers when they get hurt. The problem is that whoever is administering that insurance is not doing the right thing. I wrote a letter to the Attorney General already asking for an investigation, and when I get to City Hall, I will be sure that we take a look into that and be sure that that money and that insurance for taxi driver are used in the proper way.
Okay, on this side.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Nunez Mejia. This question is directed to Senator Ruben Diaz. As a lifelong Bronx resident, my main concern is housing and the fact that the Bronx area median income is lumped with Westchester, people who earn mostly six-figure salaries. What can you do to level the playing field and that housing is actually affordable? Because it really isn't affordable.
Okay, we're going to let you respond, and we're going to let you get a response on that as well. Go right ahead.
The houses that I have been built, that I've been able to build, have been affordable. I have been very careful talking to my colleagues that when we build houses in the Bronx, it doesn't happen to us what happened in Harlem. Harlem is nice, being rebuilt, it's been done, but the native of Harlem are no longer there. They lost their houses, they lost things. So I have been very careful in all the houses that we build, that those houses are occupied by our community. And the houses the 3 projects that I have been able to create in the 32nd Senatorial District have been affordable houses, no developed. I will continue fighting, and that's what the Daily News says. I will continue fighting for affordable housing. I've always been fighting for that, and I will continue fighting for affordable houses.
Thank you.
In this district, we need affordable houses.
Thank you. Mr. Belzer?
I think that's right. In this district, we do need more affordable housing. We need affordable housing that just doesn't fit into lotteries and formulas. But the residents of this district have asked you to show up when they're trying to protect their affordable housing, when they're facing 800% rent increases, and you've told them that they get hot dogs and hamburgers. You didn't have to show up to their meetings. I don't think that's right. I think the next city council member should be at those meetings. They should be there step by step of the way. And I completely disagree. We need a community-based plan because all of these protections, all of preserving the rent stabilization, making sure that we're getting the transit improvements that we need. It needs to be in a comprehensive plan because or else we will turn into Harlem. We will see things that happen in Brooklyn because when I was on the community board, we saw that a paratransit facility is getting moved onto our waterfront. And that's because in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, 10 years ago, they passed a plan that said no industrial use on the waterfront. Now, the city took 10 years, but they moved it off of their waterfront, and because we didn't stand up, because people like that I share the stage with did not show up and show out, we're being forced to take this facility. So I hope as the next council member that we can set forward a plan that sets our communities not together, not just for a few people to get affordable housing in one building, but for all of our needs to be met, and we need to start talking about right sizing. We need to start talking about where are we letting our seniors age comfortably, because I'm sorry, they should not be aging on the 22nd floor in a 3-bedroom apartment when they're stuck there by themselves in the elevator that does not come. This is not right. It's a failure of leadership on the state level, the federal level, and you know, when I get into the city council, those people are going to feel the heat as well.
Okay, next question is right there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yomaris Maldonado. I am Dominican, and I'm here representing the Dominican people of the Bronx.
Okay, who is your question to?
I was raised in the Bronx.
No,
Mr.
I heard
Diaz,
you. Who is your question
Mr.
to?
Diaz,
Okay.
my question, I understand you've given the Dominican community a lot of jobs, and I would like to know at the City Council, what is your plan to work with the Dominican community here that is growing so fast in the Bronx? You know, we have a lot of American citizens that are Dominican that are moving into the Bronx. What is your plans for our community here?
The census says that more Dominicans live now in the Bronx, and that's what I said before. Everybody wants to come to the Bronx. If the Bronx were that bad, people won't like to come to the Bronx. But everybody wants to come to the Bronx because we have been doing a great job, a wonderful job in creating housing and building opportunities. The Dominican community is one of those communities that is growing like crazy now. The census says that U.S. Census says that the Dominicans are more here in the Bronx than in Manhattan. If you know me, you know that right now we are already organizing. We're organizing a relief marathon for Santo Domingo if something happened in the U.S. I'm always been there for the Dominican. They always been there. And at one time I employed 1,300 people in the Bronx. When the Bronx was down, when the Bronx was burnt out, I was there creating jobs, and I employed 1,300 people. 900 of them were Dominican. I was the biggest employer of Dominican in the Bronx.
Okay. Can we get a mic to this gentleman here? Listen, folks, we have time. Hold on, we have time for 3 questions. It's 1, 2, and 3. Sir, go right ahead with your question.
Reverend.
Oh, he's going to ask it instead?
Senator Diaz. Manchester is 80 years old.
Okay, wait. Who is your question for?
To Reverend Senator Diaz. Senator Diaz, Manchester is 80 years old. If you are above age 75, Manchester books you with violations. Bed bugs,
Sir,
no bugs.
Sir, what is your question?
My question is, when 5,200 seniors died because they were bugged by Manchester with violations.
Sir,
you know, we have, we get excited.
Sir, we're short on time.
My question is, why do you allow that seniors in Manchester are given violations for nothing and they die, and then they sell those apartments? Sell those apartments.
Sir, calm down. Senator, do you know what he's talking about? Okay, sir, please have a seat. Sir, please have a seat. Sir, have a seat. Sir, have a seat. Thank you. Sir, thank you. Okay, the next question was right here. Go right ahead. Go right ahead,
Good evening.
ma'am.
This question is for Mr. Diaz.
For Mr. Diaz.
Yes. Because there has been so much chanting for you. I have not been able to hear how many years have you been involved in the Bronx? Yes. No, wait.
I have to say that I moved to the
You
Bronx.
gotta ask the second part, man.
Okay, so how many years have you been in the Bronx? You see, I was born and raised here in the Bronx.
Question, please.
The question here is, if you feel that the Bronx is getting better, then why is so many people in Parkchester leaving and selling their condominiums?
Excellent question. Do you have an answer, Senator? She wants to know why, if things are better as you say, why are people selling in Parkchester? Ma'am, I'm trying to understand your question. Why are people selling in Parkchester? Is that what you're saying?
There you go.
Ma'am, just tell me quickly,
Okay.
what
You see, okay. The question is, you feel that the Bronx is getting better. People are selling, not selling because they want to sell and it's a better time. They're selling because the Parkchester area is getting worse.
Okay.
One. Two,
So what's the
and this is,
question?
wait, the question is, why do you feel that it's getting better? And two, in
Okay.
all respect to anyone and everyone's here, and in favor of all these other three candidates that are here, this meeting was supposed to be a meeting, not a chant. This has been a lynching. It has been a lynching to all the other three candidates, and I think that's a lot of freaking bull. Because you bring your entourage, and then these three guys have it's not
Okay,
fair.
thank you,
You're
ma'am.
lynching. You bring
Ma'am.
your own entourage. It's a lynching.
Ma'am, thank you. Okay, so Senator, she wanted to know, Senator, and I think it's a valid question. Folks, please. I think she asked a valid question. If things are better, folks, come on now, we're almost done. If things are better, why are folks leaving?
I don't know if I should answer the question. She left.
Okay.
All right.
Who was the other question?
Hello? I would like...
He was the final question, right here. No. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Carlos Mora, and I'm the president of Tennis
Sir,
Association.
who is your question for, please?
For Mr. Garcia.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Are you aware, I have a memo from Olea, the chair of New York City Housing Department, saying they're going to have 20,000 Section 8 vouchers taken away from NYCHA. You also have between 80 to 120 million dollars, all right, for people to work are going to be cut off. Between $200 million for capital improvement. You're talking about affordable housing. Why can't you not take care of the housing that we have now, that we have scaffolds, that we're paying millions of dollars? NYCHA is moving in.
Okay.
Wait a minute, let me finish.
Okay,
NYCHA,
sir, I got your point. Go right ahead and respond, and then that final question's right here. Go ahead.
That's a great question. The same people that have been elected in office this entire time have allowed NYCHA to decay over the years. The federal government is not going to save us now more than ever. President Trump, who my opponent supports, is looking to gut public housing. Now, in the 2015 budget, the city worked with the state to allocate $300 million into NYCHA repairs, something that had never happened before, because again, those federal dollars are not going to come back. So the city has to work with the state to address this issue. Now, I have an opponent who's running on his experience, wanting to come down to the city council. And with all due respect, we have unfinished business on tax policy to have a real robust affordable housing plan in the state Senate. We have unfinished business on the DREAM Act in the state Senate. We have unfinished business on protecting the cab drivers, as you mentioned, on the state Senate. So you're leaving the state Senate with unfinished business to come to the city council. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want things to stay the same, vote for the same people. What I would do, it is broke. He just said it's broke. There's scaffolding that's been there for years. The city and state needs to work to create different sources of revenue for NYCHA, leveraging the public land to build affordable housing that gives first dibs to the current NYCHA residents, leveraging the air rights. A lot of Bronx River houses along the Cross Bronx can leverage those air rights for billboards to generate revenues that way as well, and then working with the state to continue to bring in funding.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Last question. Go right ahead, ma'am. Oh, I promise you. Okay, I'll give you your say, sir. Let her go ahead. 2 questions and that's it. Who is it directed
My
at,
question is directed to Amanda.
Go right ahead.
As I look at the stage, I realize that my particular demographic is not represented because I am an African-American female who also lives in this area. And my question is to you, with no disrespect to anyone's culture, what will you do specifically to make sure that you are inclusive of the African-American population here and the other populations that live in this area?
Thank you for asking such a great question. All of my policies and my past experience have been primarily focused on inclusivity. I actually am a co-founder of an organization called Women of Color for Progress, for the simple fact of that we need to ensure not only women, but women of color are represented, and our black and brown men are not going to be subjected to the same policies that we have right now, and they're disproportionately objected to.
Okay. Go ahead, finish. We're just really short on time. Go ahead.
Sure. So obviously making sure that there are policies that are driven from the community into City Hall, mandating that, looking at our community and mandating that we get things done. One example of that is a women's health bill that I've proposed that actually passed unanimously in City Council that focuses on reporting on the maternal mortality rates of black women, because citywide maternal mortality rates are going down, but for African American women, they're actually going up. So for me, it's always been about inclusivity. It's always about looking at my community and its demographics and ensuring that black, brown, yellow, whatever it is, we are equally being cared for, and that all of my policy and all of my programs will be through the lens of everyone, and that includes people of color, people with disabilities, veterans, seniors, youth, everyone. We need to ensure that if, as a person that's representing 175,000 people in District 18, I am here to represent everyone wholly and fully.
Okay, quick response, and a quick response, please.
Well, as a proud father of a 7-year-old daughter, I was honored to share the stage with Ms. Farias, and I definitely applaud Women of Color for progress. But if you go on their Facebook page, there's not actually many African-American women featured on there, and I think in a lot of these open seats, men are getting picked on for saying that they're running against a woman. I think there's an issue. There's an issue of, like you said, why for open seats? How come there's not many black women of color going for these seats? So I think that's a great question, and I look forward to working with Ms. Farias to continue to build upon that.
I can't.
I'm going to have to, because that's actually incorrect. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to. It's really convenient for me to be the only woman on this stage and for a man to say that my organization that is covering for women of color and Afro-Latinas and African-American women and Indian women and Muslim women is not represented when you clearly don't have your facts straight. And we need to have women in office to make sure that policy and programming in this community is equally represented, because this is a pure example of what women face throughout this city.
Quickly, sir, it's got to be fast. We're done with time. Go ahead.
My question is directed for Mr. Garcia. Earlier, you had heard Ruben Diaz say that he had created thousands of jobs. I was just curious, how many jobs have you created?
As the Bronx Borough Director in Mayor Bill de Blasio's office, where I had a front row seat to economic development across the city.
I'm sorry, let me clarify the question. Not through the mayor's office. How many jobs have you yourself created?
Sure. That's a great question.
Okay, wait, listen, folks. We can't hear anything. Let's let them respond. We're going to go over here next. Go ahead.
Job creation and upward mobility is a paramount issue in this community. We still have the highest unemployment rate in the entire state in terms of Bronx County being #1. I'm a proud graduate of Aviation High School, a career technical high school. It is a pipeline. You can choose your question, but you can't choose your answer. I'm answering the question. We've seen already the unemployment rate go down. What I want to do to spur job, because elections are about the future, looking into the future, what I want to do to spur job creation is to build on career technical education programs. Not every kid is meant to be college bound. And technical education, whether it's mechanic, whether it's nursing, whether it's welding, is going to ensure that every child succeeds. And if they do want to go to college, that's going to make their college application all the more stronger. We just had Labor Day. There are 6 million jobs across the country that don't require any college degree. And we have to close the gap on training. Well, that's why I'm answering the question.
All right, thank you for that response.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that response. Go right ahead, ma'am.
My question is for Senator Diaz. Senator Diaz, a few years ago, they closed down the Whitestone movie theater. And the idea was they were going to put in outlet stores and create so many thousands of jobs for our unemployed here in the Bronx. Even though it's not his district, he is involved with that program. So therefore, I want to know what happened We're all sitting here with all of this stuff. He was involved
Okay,
with
wait,
it,
okay,
with the
ma'am,
closing down
ma'am,
and getting the
ma'am,
contract to
ma'am,
build it. What
can you-
happened?
He couldn't hear the question. He couldn't, ma'am, he couldn't hear, ma'am, he couldn't hear the question.
Okay. Senator Diaz, even though it's not your district, you were involved with the plan to open up the outlet stores over where the Whitestone movie used to be. A lot of people went along with that, and now it just sits there with abandoned cars. What happened with that, and what can you tell us as a community, since some of those jobs were promised to our people here in Parkchester?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Quickly, Reverend Diaz, and then the final question. Sir, please stay at the microphone.
Stay here. That's why you don't
Go ahead.
Okay.
Reverend Diaz. Give him a mic, please. Quick response.
She's talking about the Whitestone Bridge, the Whitestone movie, the Whitestone Theater. Fine. Those are private lands, private things are very difficult for us to tell the people what to do. However, there is a plan. There is a plan for that area to build a shopping center there. It's been put on hold, but there is a plan for a shopping center in the area where the Whitestone Theater used to be. Everything is on hold now, but that's
Okay, the final question of the night.
Okay, my name is Elvin Castillo. Good afternoon to all of you. My question is to each one of you.
No, your question is for one, and you got to ask it in 15 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the question to Mr. Ruben Diaz. So, I've been living in the Bronx for 25 years. So, the 25 years behind, this is not the Bronx that we have nowadays. My question to you is...
Sir, we're out of time.
Okay.
What is your question?
The question that I had, we need more funds for our education for minority and black people. Ruben Diaz, what is the plan that you had to improve the education of our minority people, black and Latin community right here in the Bronx? Thank you.
Thank you. The question was minority jobs here in the Bronx. Sir, was the question minority jobs in the Bronx? You talking about education? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Do you guys know what he's talking? Nobody knows what you're talking about. Did you guys understand what the question was? Okay, so it was on. Okay, so great, thank you. Okay, now, sir, you want to, Reverend? You know what? 15 seconds each, everybody, and
Okay.
that's it.
I have been fighting to create charter schools. Charter schools have been created to give the black.
Please let him answer.
Please, folks. Okay, 15 seconds for the other ones. Wait, Reverend Diaz, that is a good question. She asked, if you can't handle this, how are you going to handle the city council? We're gonna let everyone answer the question. We're going to let everyone answer it. Yeah, I don't know. Candidates, please go ahead and answer the question. Here, take this mic.
Test. Is it on? Test. So young people of color have been segregated from our school systems. We got to desegregate our schools. That's number one. The state government owes our public schools over $1 billion. Some people are coming down to the city council not having brought that money back. We also need to give principals more flexibility. Every school is a reflection of the community and their special needs there. We got to maintain the schools that we have now, but we must learn from the original intent of the charter schools, which is to create new models of innovation for our public schools, and the status quo cannot remain. We must change the model of education and continue to make investments. Thank you.
I have been working for charter school. I believe that black and Hispanic children, black and Hispanic parents have to get the opportunity to send their children to the school of their choice. To tell a black parent or a Hispanic parent, no, you cannot send your children to the school of your choice. You have to put your children here. When the parents say, no, I don't want my children here. I want my child in this school. No, you cannot send it to this school. That is outrageous. That is discrimination. And that's what I'm fighting. Charter school is something, I'm fighting for public school. Public school is how to keep public school. But charter school have been created to give the black and Hispanic children in our community an opportunity to get a good education.
As a proud public school parent, I'm very acutely aware of the concerns that parents have. My daughter is playing in a playground that's sinking. She's drinking out of lead pipes. She's getting services in the hallway, and she's not even getting real physical education. What we need to make sure is that we're getting all the funding, like Mr. Garcia said, for our schools, but we don't need charter schools that are bad actors in our community. We need to make sure that we hold them accountable. I'll do that on the city council, and we need to stop self-selecting. I come from Long Island. It's very segregated out there. We are self-selecting. We are picking out. We are picking out and not letting our children grow together. And we are leaving our children behind. And as the next city council member for Council District 18, I will fight for every single child in this community.
Saving the best for last. So, what my plans are for education, obviously I have an 8-year-old brother and a 19-year-old brother, both of whom are in 2 different separate levels of education, and both need as much of investment as possible. Obviously for the parents, we're a commuter area, we need free and affordable after-school programs, but our students need actually STEM. They need to have cultural programming. They need to make sure that there's a music program, an art program, and one of the bills that I co-wrote, physical education for all students.
Thank you. A round of applause for the candidates, please. It has been my honor to be here with you. The fact that you still had 1 million questions is a great thing. That's a good thing, because that points to passion with our democracy. I'm going to pass this on to President Roberts to close out the night.
I will be extremely brief. I want to thank all of you for coming out to this candidates forum. I want to thank all of the candidates for your participation. If you deliver what it is that you said tonight, then we are going to be growing as a community. This is what we need to hear. I know that our community has been engaged with you, and we hope to do more of this in the future. Thank you, and let me have Jose.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, Dominic. Thank you to the candidates for being here. By the way, this is the first time this has been done, and this wouldn't be possible without the support of the New York Finance Campaign Board through their NYC Votes initiative. This is the first time. We were on BronxNet yesterday, and it was mentioned that all 5 candidates were there last week. And I said, yes, they were, but they were one by one. This is the first time they're going to face their voters. Tuesday, September the 12th, are primaries. Now you're better informed, and that was our intent. Thank you very much for being here.
And again, thank you to Dominic Carter. Let's give him a round of applause. He was an excellent moderator tonight.
From the north to the south to the west to the east, we are expanding our services and upgrading technology at Lehman College. And now, Bronxites have an innovative media production facility in the East Bronx at Mercy College in the Hutch Metro Center. The windows on the East Bronx studio, a state-of-the-art control room, media labs for production and training, and other media-capable spaces. Training, workforce development, leading-edge technology, and programs that help you share your ideas, your voice, on your channels, locally and globally. Build media and technology skills at BronxNet, and build your dreams.